The story begins with a small family starting over in a quiet, unfamiliar town. Evelyn, her husband Red, and their young son Kane have just moved into a modest home, hoping to leave their troubled past behind. They're trying to create a new life, one that feels safe and peaceful. Evelyn, skilled in basic woodworking, is seen in the opening moments building a small wooden shelf. In the middle of her work, she receives a message from Red. He's working as a supervisor on a construction site, busy helping workers on location. In his message, he tells Evelyn that Kane's school called. The principal wants them to pick him up early. Evelyn heads to the school and meets Principal Missily, a kind but concerned woman. She gently explains that Kane has been having trouble adjusting. He's been distant, withdrawn, and not interacting well with the other students. Evelyn thanks her for her understanding. Missily reassures her it will take time, but Kane will eventually settle in. Evelyn then finds Kane, sitting by himself, away from the other children. To lift his mood, she hands him a small toy. It works. He smiles just a little. On the ride home, she softly asks him about his day. But Kane, clearly upset, mutters that he hates school. The kids are mean, and the teachers aren't any better. Evelyn listens patiently, reminding him that sometimes people act mean because they're hurting too. She adds that this is the best school in town, and she and Red are doing everything they can to help him have a better life. The next morning, but the doorbell soon rings. At the door stands Uriah, a mute spiritual medium and an old friend. Evelyn had called him before to bless the house. He communicates through silent gestures, calm and steady. They sit together quietly, but the peace is interrupted when Red returns home early, Kane by his side, visibly upset. Later, Red explains what happened. Kane got into a fight at school. Some kids bullied him, and Kane lashed out. He's now suspended for 3 days. Red also questions why Uriah has been over so often, pointing out that this is the 3rd visit in 1 week. Evelyn explains she wants the house spiritually cleansed and protected. But Red, a practical man, doesn't believe in such things. He asks her to send Uriah away. Reluctantly, Evelyn agrees. She tells Uriah to come back next week. That night, the couple sits down with Kane to talk. They tell him he won't be allowed to watch TV or play video games for 2 weeks. If his behavior doesn't improve, the punishment will be extended. Trying to end the night on a more hopeful note, Evelyn tells Kane that they'll be going on a family trip tomorrow, just the 3 of them. Kane lights up. The next morning, he's the first one awake, excited for the day. They head to a nearby forest for a short outing, just some fresh air, time together, and hopefully, a chance to reset. During the trip, Evelyn and Red still worry about Kane. Meanwhile, Kane is off exploring on his own. But when they realize he's wandered too far, panic sets in. They call out and eventually find him, standing silently in a strange part of the woods. In front of him stands an old, heavy wooden door. It's upright, chained and bolted, but it's not connected to any building. Just a door, standing on its own. It's eerie, mysterious, and completely out of place. Red and Evelyn are baffled. Who would chain a door shut, in the middle of the forest? Evelyn, ever the craftsman and antique enthusiast, is intrigued. She suggests they take it home. Maybe she could restore it and use it for something in the house. Red hesitates, but eventually agrees. They load the door into their vehicle and return home. Over the next 3 days, Evelyn works hard restoring the strange door. She sands, paints, and carefully repairs it until it looks brand new. Since they needed a closet door anyway, Red installs it in one of the rooms. Around the same time, Kane's school suspension ends. Evelyn gets him ready to return. But just when things seem to be going back to normal, odd things begin to happen. One morning, Evelyn opens the closet to grab Kane's jacket and is hit with a foul, rotting smell. She assumes Kane might have left food in his pockets, but he denies it. Maybe it's the shoes, she thinks, and brushes it off. But later that day, something worse happens. Returning from the store, Evelyn reaches into her pocket for her car keys and instead pulls out a handful of live maggots. Horrified, she throws off the jacket. The bugs seem to have come from nowhere. Shaken, she says nothing at first, but that night, she brings it up with Red. She suspects Kane may be playing a disturbing prank, although she can't be sure. Red agrees to talk to him. Later that night, Evelyn walks into the kitchen and sees a shadowy figure standing silently in the dark. She gasps and flips on the light, but it's just Kane. She asks why he's awake. Kane looks nervous and says he's been having nightmares about a monster chasing him. Evelyn soothes him gently. There's no such thing as monsters, she whispers. She tucks him in and sings him a lullaby. But as she leaves the room, something reaches out. A hand, pale, thin, and unfamiliar, slowly extends from the closet behind her. The next morning, Uriah returns unannounced. With urgency in his eyes, he signs to Evelyn that the house was never truly cleansed. The ritual was left incomplete. And unless it's finished, something terrible is coming. As Uriah began preparing the ritual, his eyes suddenly locked onto the newly installed door in the hallway. Curious, he pointed at it and asked where it had come from. Evelyn casually explained they had found it deep in the woods, just an old door chained up and abandoned. But Uriah's reaction was instant and alarming. His entire body stiffened with fear. He urgently signed that the door radiated dark energy, a curse. It must be removed immediately. Before Evelyn could respond, the lights in the house flickered wildly, then shut off completely, plunging them into complete darkness. A warning. Later that evening, Red returned home, and Evelyn told him everything. Uriah's warning, the strange flickers, the energy he sensed. But Red remained skeptical. He said he'd remove the door, just not right away. Maybe over the weekend. Evelyn reluctantly agreed, though the growing fear in her heart refused to settle. The next day, desperate for answers, Evelyn visited the local library. She spoke to the librarian, asking about any old legends or strange disappearances connected to the town. The woman told her a few vague stories, a haunted bridge, a cursed well. But one detail stood out. 20 years ago, several children from the area had gone missing. Vanished. No trace was ever found. Evelyn asked for any records or newspaper clippings, and the librarian promised to dig them up from the archives. That night, she shared what she had learned with Red. But again, he dismissed it. It's all ghost stories, he said. Probably put in your head by Uriah. He was frustrated now, tired of Evelyn's spiraling fears. But the next morning, something undeniable happened. The door, the one Evelyn had carefully restored and painted, now looked as if it were rotting. She tried to convince herself it was just bad paint, but deep down, she knew better. Later that day, with Red at work and Kane at school, Evelyn found herself home alone. And then it happened. A young girl, ghostly pale, clearly not of this world, wandered silently through the hallway. Evelyn didn't see her at first. But when the girl passed through the closet door, Evelyn heard it, a low thump, a creak, then silence. She cautiously opened the door, but it was empty. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Kane's school. There'd been another incident. Kane had been suspended, again. This time for brutally attacking another student. Evelyn, disturbed and confused, took Kane home. That night, she and Red sat down to talk. Red suggested taking Kane with him to the construction site the next day. Maybe work would teach him discipline. The next morning, while Kane was with Red, Evelyn received the newspaper clippings from the librarian. As she read through them, one article made her blood run cold. Among the missing children was a young girl named Maggie. Her mother still lived in town. Determined, Evelyn went to see her. When she mentioned the strange door found in the woods, Maggie's mother froze. Her face twisted from shock to horror. She explained that 20 years ago, Maggie had often wandered to an old house deep in the forest. Everyone said the place was cursed. One day, Maggie, like the others, vanished. In her desperation, Maggie's mother had set the house on fire. Everything burned, except the door. No matter how hot the flames, it wouldn't catch fire.
Panicked, she buried it.
But the next morning it was back, standing in the exact same place. That's when she chained it shut and buried the key. "You've made a terrible mistake," she said, eyes full of fear. "That door should never have been disturbed. It hasn't claimed a child in 20 years until now." Evelyn's heart dropped. She rushed home, only to get a message from Red. He had already dropped Kane off at the house, but it was already too late. Kane was gone. The door stood wide open. The house was silent. They contacted the police, filed a missing persons report, but Evelyn knew. Kane hadn't run away. He had been taken. That night, in pure desperation, Evelyn called Uriah. When he arrived, she and Red told him everything: Kane's behavior, the nightmares, the ghost girl, the history. Uriah listened carefully, then confirmed their worst fear. The door wasn't just cursed. It was a portal, a gateway to another realm, ruled by an ancient entity that fed off fear. But there was still hope. If they returned the door to where they found it, and performed a full ritual, there was a chance Kane could be retrieved. But time was short. The longer Kane remained in that realm, the harder it would be to bring him back. That night, under cover of darkness, Evelyn, Red, and Uriah carried the door back to the forest. They placed it exactly where they had found it. Uriah lit candles, drew ancient protection symbols, and began the ritual, signing, chanting, calling out across the veil. As the wind picked up, a spirit appeared, the gatekeeper. Uriah pleaded for entry into the other realm. At first, the spirit was silent, but with more chanting, it finally allowed them passage. The cost?
The key.
Uriah laid the rusted key on the forest floor. It vanished instantly. The door creaked open and the world around them went black. Only Uriah's lantern remained. They stepped through the door and crossed into the shadow realm. It was cold,
Alive.
the air thick with dread. They saw them, ghostly flickers. The children who had vanished, still trapped, still afraid. Evelyn and Red pressed forward, calling for Cain. And then they saw it. The demon. Twisted, ancient, monstrous. Uriah, speaking in a tongue unknown, tried to bargain. But the demon refused. It didn't want offerings. It wanted fear. Evelyn begged. Red offered himself in Cain's place. The demon only laughed. Then it asked Evelyn, "What are you willing to give?" She didn't hesitate. "Anything," she said. The demon paused and offered a deal. Cain would be returned. But in exchange, Evelyn and Red must obey its will whenever called upon. They would have to open the door again. Let in more fear. Let in more children. Tears in her eyes, Evelyn agreed. She sealed the pact, not with ink, but with her soul. Suddenly, the door burst open behind them. Cain stood there, unharmed, but different. Quiet. They grabbed him and ran. Back in the real world, Uriah told them the deal was done. But their lives were no longer their own. He refused to stay in the town any longer and warned them, never disobey the pact. The next day, Evelyn and Cain left the town. But Red stayed behind. He had work to do. In the final moments, we see Red, silent, cold, repainting the cursed door. He carries it into the hallway of a local school. He installs it there, freshly polished,
Perfectly placed.
no one questions it. No one knows what it truly is. But soon they will. Because from now on, the demon has a doorway in a place full of frightened, innocent children. And those who vanish won't be coming back. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.